Good evening. This is AMPAC Radio, and today is April 5th, 2013, and this is your AMPAC Radio Community Talk Show. We have tonight Dr. Kevin Barrett, Isa Hodge, MD Alam, and we'd like to welcome each and everybody for tonight's show. If you want to join our show, please, you can dial 559-726-1000 and your access code 217357 and the pound sign. So our topics tonight, we are moving along with our Million American March, who is aka Million Muslim March, and the 9/11/13. We are hoping and expecting a great success and turnout that million of Americans will be joining at the Washington D.C. and we're going to be, talking and getting our official documentation towards the President Obama and the Obama administration to, protect our rights and the rest of the, American, minority American, and especially Muslim Americans. So, hello and everybody, and welcome Dr. Kevin Barrett, Isa Hodge, and myself, MD Alam. Thank you, Dr. Kevin Barrett. It's all on you.
Okay, well, it's good to be with you guys at the AMPAC radio show. I'm keeping very busy right now. I do try to talk about the march, the Million American March Against Fear, whenever I can, and most people really like the change, and they support the idea of broadening it from just Muslims to everybody standing up against fear. I've been very busy lately. I'm planning there's a peace conference in Syria I'm supposed to attend at the end of the month, and kind of keeping busy scheduling things and doing a lot of interviews and things like that. And I have been trying to spread the word. Now, I'm planning to write a Press TV article about the Million American March Against Fear soon, since it's sort of a follow-up to the last one when it was called the Million Muslim March. And I'm hoping that will be kind of a reference point that people will be able to use to help spread the word about it. And, well, other than that, I've had a lot of interesting guests on the radio shows, most of them 9/11 Truth supporters. Francis Boyle, the international law professor at the University of Illinois, was on the show today. And he hasn't really stood up and made a big statement about 9/11 Truth, but he's been expressing skepticism about the official story pretty much ever since it happened. He's one of the world's top international lawyers and international law professors, and is a supporter of the Palestinians. So it was good talking to him. Let's see what other news do we have on this front. I was on Press TV this evening talking about North Korea, of all places, and it is kind of interesting that there's all this buzz about North Korea, and the North Korean government is threatening the United States with nuclear weapons in a way that no other country really ever has. And it is kind of interesting the way they're trying to keep the narrative going. The Zionists are trying to keep us believing that Iran is the big nuclear threat, when actually Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, has banned nuclear weapons and said that, in a fatwa, the official legal decision, that they're haram, they're forbidden in Islam. You can't build them. And Iran, for all of its different views on things from the U.S., has never come even remotely close to threatening the U.S. the way North Korea has been. So the Zionists and the media are trying to keep the narrative that Islam is the enemy going, but it's kind of hard for them when these kinds of things happen and it all goes off script. But of course, there's always turmoil somewhere in the Muslim world that's usually being created and stoked by the Americans and or the Israelis. So they have enough stuff to point at. And let's see, what else? There was that pretty amusing story recently that I think AMPAC might want to take up about a high school in Colorado, where they were teaching students a bunch of different foreign languages, and they taught the students to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in the languages. And one of the languages they were teaching was Arabic. And so the line, one nation under God, and, it would be una nación sobre, or I forget how to say under in Spanish, Dios, and in French,
Yep.
une nation sous Dieu. In Arabic, it's Umma Wahida tahta Allah. And, of course, the Arabic uses the word Allah for God, because that's what Christians and Jews and Muslims and all other monotheists call God when they use the Arabic language. But by talking about one nation under God and having Allah be the name of God, some of these crazy parents of the students got the idea that somehow this was like a big Muslim Brotherhood plot to convert America to Islam and subjugate all of America to Allah, who they imagined to be the Muslim God.
Really?
So this was a pretty hilarious story, and it was already funny just reading the regular news story. So I had some fun with it and wrote a little satirical piece about the attack of the zombie morons with these high school parents as a good example of the zombie morons overrunning the country. So that's what I've been up to on the front that interests AMPAC. Maybe AMPAC should do some kind of press release about this, because it's such a classic example of the cluelessness of the people who hate and fear Islam. Go ahead.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the other things that came up, the white supremacist that killed one of the security, one of the Department of Corrections officers, and then ended in a high-speed chase in Texas that killed them. And they found all kinds of bomb and all that, bomb-making equipment and a Domino's pizza delivery uniform and all of that in his car after the high-speed chase ended in the suspect's death. Well, there were, and they're not small ones, these are mainstream Colorado newspapers that actually posted it before they knew who it was, why he did it, what color they were, anything. They immediately started to post that because this particular correctional chief, his name was Tom Clements, was killed, the particular prison that he worked at, there was Homadian al-Turki that was incarcerated there. The wealthy Saudi one that was found guilty for sex crimes. So Colorado newspapers and the media were putting out that the assassination on the death of Tim Clemens was actually from Islamic extremists. They immediately said that it had links to Al-Qaeda.
And apparently they did this without any evidence at all. They just because there was like one famous Muslim prisoner in the entire Colorado prison system, they somehow imagined it must have been him.
Yeah, they immediately started doing that, and even now after the evidence has come out and it has nothing to do with Islam or extremists or al-Turki, they still, the Denver Post, Fox News and the Denver Post, Colorado Fox News and Denver Post were the two main culprits, still have not released any apologies for it to this day. And so it goes along with what you're talking about, that mainstream media, their number one goal is to perpetuate this lie about Islam and Muslims and the word terrorist. I had a conversation with somebody about that the other day, and the fact that Barrett to this day still has not been listed, or in the media have called him a terrorist. You remember this is the guy in Norway that killed 70 some odd kids on the island. Even though his manifesto, his very actions fit the very definition of even the federal code, let alone the United Nations code of what a terrorist act is. And to this day, they still call him that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. With Korea, it's interesting that you brought up Korea, because I remember when North Korea started this nonsense during Bush's last administration, and Bush instead decided to go ahead and invade Iraq and Afghanistan and all of that. And I'm like, here's verifiable proof out of their own mouths that not only do they have the capability or trying to gain the capability of nuclear weapons, but also have vowed and promised to use it against us. And I call Bush a coward. He was a coward for going against a country that supposedly had weapons of mass destruction, which they found not one thing. And Obama is the same. Obama is a coward. Obama continues the war on terror. He has not closed Gitmo, though he verbally opposes torturing the suspected terrorists. They still do it. There are several cases in the courts right now. Milan is one of them about that. There's a UN special investigator that has been demanding from the Obama administration all evidence and information on the 5 facilities that they house them in and their torturing practices and all of that. And the Obama administration still continues to obstruct the UN justice or UN investigation process, I should say. And then with North Korea, you guys remember there was a brief moment, that YouTube video that went online from the North Korean government showing, it was kind of a weird video where it showed some Korean guy with weird music and weird background dancing around, and then all of a sudden they show a landscape of New York City and a Korean nuclear missile flying at it and blowing it up, and then just laughing at the end. Now, it didn't stay on YouTube very long. It was on very, very briefly before they yanked it off. Did you guys hear about that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
usually people, when they do that, usually somebody can download it, and it usually gets out somehow anyway.
Yeah, I haven't tried to look for it again since that day. I remember I saw it on Yahoo News, actually, just browsing through, and I saw it on there, and I immediately clicked on it, and I watched the video. And it's about 45 seconds long, but it is a clear-cut message and it was released from the North Korean government, showing New York being blown up by a North Korean nuclear missile, and then laughter afterwards. And so, you know, the thing is that these types of things that are going on that we're talking about right now, and if people want proof that the media is skewed, that the media is a tool used for propaganda, for fear tactics, they don't have to look any further than what we're talking about right now. They can also look in Burma. Believe me, when I first heard about this, I was shocked too. There's actually no way to tell how many. The Burmese government is only saying 79 deaths, but they're very, very tight-knit, especially since they're trying to get some of the sanctions off of them from the United States, as well as get our tax dollars. So they're being very, very tight-lipped on the actual numbers of deaths, injuries, and destruction of property of Muslims in Burma that are being murdered by Buddhist monks. When I read this, I was just, because, you know, your image of Buddhist monks are vegetarian and karma and peace, and they're running around with swords and machetes chopping Muslims' heads off. But yet the media only talks about, some village out in the middle of the desert, or some Taliban thing in Pakistan or Afghanistan where somebody gets beheaded, or, during the height of the Afghan war and the Iraqi war, news correspondents and military people being captured and beheaded. But they don't talk about the fact that Buddhist monks are doing the same thing to Muslims in Burma.
Well, that is the problem, with the biggest problem with the media, and the media is a big bucks business, and the strong pull for the twisting the politics and bringing the whole Muslim generation and community at large looking at, and kind of it's an anti-Muslim game, and the media, that is what exactly taking the key role to make all the fabrication and all the twisted story. Anyway, this is AMPAC, American Muslim Political Action Committee, and AMPAC community talk show. You are listening Isa Hodge, our Chief of Operation for Million American March, aka Million Muslim March, and we have Dr. Kevin Barrett from Madison, Wisconsin, and tonight I am MD Alam, and you are listening a very interesting topic that Dr. Kevin Barrett was talking and Isa was talking. By the way, I'd like to give a touch base on those who might have known that there is uprising going on in Bangladesh. What really happened about a couple months ago, there was a political, imbalances that taken place, and the government came out with some sort of twisted, international tribunal for the war criminals. So they came up with a condition that they started killing people, normal people, citizens. So at a point it was targeted that, these people are Muslim and they are doing some type of Islamic party. But, recently actually there is a organization. They are not a political organization. They are non-political organization, but they are kind of a service organization called Hifazat Islam Bangladesh, which is meaning that Hifazat is a term that meaning is protector. So kind of they came out and they call a long march towards the capital city Dhaka. And a matter of fact, believe or not, this is actually exactly 8 a.m. in Dhaka in Bangladesh, and about almost more than 1 million, about 1,200,000 people, they are coming and they're gathering from all the subdivision and all the local districts to the capital city Dhaka, Bangladesh, and technically they are asking and standing for the solidarity of the humanity and Muslim, and asking that do not kill people, and they're looking at the fact that this look like one of the kind of compare, people are saying, the media, that you have seen a lot of people at the Tahrir Square in Egypt. Now you can look millions Muslims, they're standing for the humanity and solidarity in the capital of Dhaka, Bangladesh. So if you want to go, look at the, updates, you can do that. There are so many Facebook pages up, there are so many news media, but once again, the corporate media in Bangladesh, they are not, promoting, and they are not really giving any real status, and they are not telling any type of real news. Yet there are maybe 200, 300 people, they are against it. Media is focusing those, it's like the same, how the Fox News come up with their idea, and they reach 100,000, 100 million people in very short moment of time. Yet, those other media out there, they're crying with the truth. It doesn't, get crossed. So, picking up from Isa, as I was picking up from Isa that, the media is always, corporate media is always something that they do not try to represent the truth and the fact. They kind of, pick up the business, perspective and humiliation to the, war against Islam or war against Muslims. You're listening AMPAC, and tonight we have Dr. Kevin Barrett and Isa Hodge. Go ahead, Dr. Kevin Barrett, pick it up from here. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting that we do see this pattern kind of all over the world, where bigotry against Muslims is somehow more acceptable than other kinds of bigotry, and even in places like Bangladesh and over in Burma, where the Buddhist monks are persecuting Muslims and trying to ethnically cleanse Burma of Muslims, even though there have been Muslims living in what's now Burma for well over 1,000 years now. There's this kind of nationalism that leads people to try to get rid of everybody who's exactly like themselves. It's very much like what's going on in Israel as well, where Muslims are also the victims. And so it seems that I think the global media is the biggest single culprit here. They're always going to play up any kind of story that makes Muslims look bad, and relative to stories about any other kind of people. And I don't think that's a coincidence that the media is owned by and operated heavily by people who have an interest in Israel, wealthy Jewish people who are very concerned about the survival of Israel, which is, of course, a kind of a settler colony that's been implanted in Muslim Holy Land. You know, the Holy Land has been administered by Muslims almost as long as Islam has existed, and now they've ethnically cleansed the core of the Holy Land in Palestine and perpetrating what my international law professor guest today, Francis Boyle, calls genocide. And people who are committed to that, not just the wealthy Jewish Zionists who own much of the media, but also the ordinary folks, Jewish folks who work for it, are committed to spinning the news in a way so as to protect Israel. And I think they're quite conscious of this at some level, but really unwilling to do the kind of deep self-examination that would be necessary to change. And so I've always advocated trying to really attack this head-on instead of beating around the bush and demand, I think one of the things AMPAC really should consider doing somewhere down the line is calling for a more representative media, and specifically calling for a media that has equal Muslim and Jewish representation here in the U.S., because there are about equal numbers of Muslims and Jews here in the U.S., and yet Jews completely dominate the media, and Muslims have a very, very small presence in the media. And we do have this notion of fairness and even quota systems where ethnic groups are supposed to be sort of in the same neighborhood. When it like the fact that white people on the average make maybe half again as much money as black people is considered scandalous. And it's scandalous when a particular ethnic group holds power and another one is relatively powerless. And well, here we have these two ethnic groups that are really at war in the Middle East, and it's a war of aggression by Zionists who are creating what they call a Jewish state by committing genocide against Muslims and Christians, and even some Middle Eastern Jews as well. And so that's just the reality of the situation. And yet Americans are getting almost all of their information from media that's totally dominated by these Jewish Zionists. And there's virtually no Muslim representation at all in the media. So I think AMPAC down the line should think about a campaign for media equality. That is, we need to change the U.S. media and get it down to roughly equal representation for Muslims and Jews.
Well, I agree with you on that. But one of the blocking, I see as one of the potential issues with that is the fact that we have to change the politics in our country, because as long as our government continues to send $30 billion a year to Israel and continues to have the type of international policies that they have in regards to the protection of Israel at our own peril, whether it be our taxes, whether it be our lives, regardless of what it is. Our politicians, AMPAC and organizations like that, for example, we've got to get their claws, or actually we've got to get their hands out of the backs of the puppets that we call politicians. We've got to cut the strings that the lobbyists use to control the government. We start to put people into office that actually are for the people, voted, for us, that work for us, that represent us. Basically what we do from there is that we're able to help get rid of a lot of the lobbyists in the corporation, as well as get rid of a lot of the influence that the media has and control that the media has. So I think we'd have an easier time, my personal opinion, I think we have an easier time if we were to actually get rid of these Democrats and these Republicans, these Redemlicans, and actually start putting in some third parties that don't have a long history being in bed with them. Like I read on Boehner, he's one of the biggest pushers for this Tar Heel pipeline, Keystone Pipeline. I just found out he actually owns a pretty good portion of the stock of the company that's pulling the oil out of the sand. So how can we have these people representing what's best for us when they're going to legislate what's best for them?
Yeah, I mean, I am agreed with you and Dr. Kevin Barrett on that. We, AMPAC definitely need to campaign to get more, equal media type and, televised and, media outlets should be, coming to a point that, we can have fair, representation. Anyway, this is something I want to, bring as because I've been following what's really happening in Bangladesh. One of the, Bangladeshi leader, his name is, Delwar Hussain Saidi, and he's a member of the parliament, and they are, falsely accusing him that he was involved during the 1971, the Liberation War, and they are putting him on the war crime. And, what is, silly matter that they brought 20 cases against him. Out of the 20, 12 of them he got completely proven innocent, and 8 of them, out of the 8, there are 2 cases that actually they found him guilty, and the witness and the family member, they openly in the public television, they actually said no, Mr. Saidi was not involved to such any action or any type of case that been put against him. That's actually why the population, the generation, and the normal citizen, they are the good people, and they are the just simple, great Islam, Muslim. They're all jumping on the street and they are challenging the government, and they are asking for the solidarity and asking him to, free him, or if you have to punish him, just do according to the justice. Don't be, do the injustice and stuff like that. So a lot of the, up and down and uprising you will see in next few days. Already there are, hundreds of people being killed and shot by the police, action. And it look like Bangladesh became one of the police states that police is going in action like it look like just a, either Bollywood movie or Hollywood movie, something like that, which is actually completely, wrong that what the government is doing. So on behalf of AMPAC, this is what I like to let each and everybody know, that we condemn those violence and those killing and bloodshedding that's going on in Bangladesh. At the same time, we, put our support to that long march that, millions of Muslim and the Bangladesh, citizens, they're joining at the capital to condemn the violence that been occurred by the government and the police action. So, from the AMPAC radio, today is March 5th, which is actually Bangladesh. April 5th, which is in Bangladesh, April 6th, and it's about 8 a.m. We like to pass this message through our AMPAC radio, broadcasting live from U.S., that we are supporting that million march, to condemn the violence. Dr. Kevin Barrett or Isa Hodge, go ahead, take it from here. And this is AMPAC Radio, MD Alam, Dr. Kevin Barrett, and Isa Hodge, the Chief of Operation of Million American March.
How much time do we have left, MD?
We have about 5 minutes left.
Okay. Well, what should we sum up here? Isa, you want to go ahead?
Well, basically, with what we're talking about is progressing, AMPAC beyond after, our march, and hopefully it will be successful, God willing. that we actually start pushing. One of the suggestions was pushing towards a more equal media. I was kind of hoping to get some suggestions on your guys with my counter point about being able to better change politics. Change politicians. It'd be easier to change them, which then would decrease the power that the media actually has. Because if politicians aren't pushing the Zionist agenda, then basically what do the media have to say? I would also like to clarify, because it's sad that I have to do this, but there's two reasons. One, the average American citizen doesn't know the difference between someone that is Jewish and Zionist, and then the Zionist propaganda machine doesn't want them to know any difference. They want the two to be signed together. But there is a distinct difference between Zionists and Jews. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the Jewish people or the faith. It's the Zionist that doesn't like the Jews, nor Muslims or Christians or anybody for that matter. In fact, the media is quite tight-lipped about the growing number of demonstrations and organizations in Israel done by Hebrews, by Jews, against Zionism. The media is very, very hush-hush on that. But I believe that we would have an easier time at changing politics. We got to start from the ground up, kind of like what Panda has done. Started from the ground up. Start with state legislation, move that up to up the ladder, because the stopping at its government level has not been successful. I think we have to do the same thing. We have to look at it from who all the perpetrators of the propaganda, the war machine and Islam and all of that, and look at who's on the bottom rung. And in my personal opinion, I think it's the politicians are on the bottom rung. That they're just puppets, that they have puppeteers, and they have those controlling the strings and controlling their mouths. We start changing that from the ground up, then we start to take away the power of the puppeteer.
Well, that is, quite fair, and I support what you said in a sense that, bottom up or, grassroots, from the grassroots, movement to moving up. Also, you have to look at the trend of our, community, our people. In a grassroots level, they are not involved. So you have to come, like I believe, top down. But anyway, that's a long-term process, and surely we can do it. That should not be a problem. And this is AMPAC Radio. We are reaching our end of the time. So Dr. Kevin Barrett, go ahead, make your final comment for tonight's show.
Okay. Well, it's good to be with you guys, and I'm glad we're still forging ahead with the Million American March Against Fear for Washington, D.C. on September 11th, 2013. It looks like there's going to be more action in Washington, D.C. on this anniversary of September 11th than there usually has been. Traditionally, it's been more focused on New York City, but this year it looks like Washington, D.C. will be the place to be. And I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with both of you, Isa and MD, inshallah, and make this thing happen.
Thank you so much. You are listening Dr. Kevin Barrett from Madison, Wisconsin, and we have Isa Hodge joining from Kansas City. He's the Chief of Operation for Million American March, and I am MD Alam, your host for tonight, April 5th, 2013, AMPAC Radio, and we'll come back, and you want to join our radio conference talk show, you can dial 559-726-1000, and your access to 217357 and the pound sign. Thank you so much, and God bless each and everybody, and hope we're going to have a very successful, great 9/11/13 Million American March at Washington, D.C., and definitely we are looking forward. Hopefully see you, everybody. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
All right, Salam, thank you. Hey, Kevin, could you stay off for a few seconds after he turns it off?
Sure, very, very few.
Just a few seconds. I have a quick question. Are we off? Kevin, are you there?